Hello everyone and welcome back to another Hearts of Iron 4 Dev Diary. It has been some time since last we met, about a month for me. For the devs it's because they've been on summer holidays or vacation, but for me I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. Igmiss! With the release of a very short dev diary, I thought I'd dip my toe back into the water and see what's coming for the next big update, with a very high likelihood of it being about Japan and the Pacific War. And so today we are going to be talking about Aerohydrodynamics, which is a kind of wide term for a few little things they're wanting to talk about. For those who might have missed it, some of the other things they've talked about is how they're reworking factions and their dynamics, hydrodynamics and naval dominance, and thermodynamics, with coal becoming a new resource and how factories are going to use it. But without further ado, let's jump in to this week's Dev Diary. Hello everyone. It has been a while since the last Dev Corner. Ah yes, of course, these are Dev Corners, not Dev Diaries. Today they are going to be talking about islands, carriers and changes to them, and also about a new branch of Special Forces. Of course they want to remind us that everything here is early stage and is subject to change. I'm sure the lack of proper art is also an indication of that. First up is strategic locations, which is something they've mentioned previously in the Hydrodynamics Dev Corner. The goal with strategic locations is that under specific circumstances, because of historical importance, or their just general geographical location, certain states will have more unique bonuses applied to them. So in the case of islands, you can expect the ability to build more harbours and naval bases. But this could also apply in other capacities, such as having increased airfields or fort capacities, maybe even multiple at the same time. Looking more specifically at this clearly not work at all in progress image, we can see here how the forts, which are currently set to 6, can actually go higher with a max level naval base up to level 2. Interesting of course that they say nothing to see here, which to me implies there is definitely something that you could see here. It's worth noting that this is in the province section, not the state section, so this would be a province-based addition that you could build, which isn't a fort, a naval fort, a dock, or a supply hub. I guess that's a surprise for a future Dev Diary, but tell me, what do you think could potentially be a province building addition that they're adding in? Next up, we've got a tidbit talking about defending against naval strikes, because one thing that they don't feel worked correctly was the fact that whenever naval strike was performed on a task force that included carriers, the carrier planes would just sit idle and not kind of defend themselves. But now carrier planes will participate in the defense of a task force against naval strikes when they are part of that carrier division. As we can see in this image with these modern looking side panels, we note that the enemy ships can be damaged, and we see that they've shot down 3 planes. Thank you, CV Fighter. Another change you can expect comes in the form of carrier missions, which is kind of a show and tell. So in this image we can see that the Americans have sent out one of their largest fleets to do some naval exercises, judging by the image we can see here. However, just because they're doing naval exercises, the planes on board the carriers can also do missions independent of the ships, so you can have the ships doing exercises while the planes are working on their own. This includes going long distances too, straight into the Pacific. Because of this change, they've also gone further and made it so that when your naval task force is working with carriers performing out a mission in certain areas, the planes inside that carrier task force will perform whatever assignment you set to them inside the designated naval zones that you sent the task force to. I guess the goal here is to reduce the amount of micromanagement required, that you can just set the planes onside the carriers to do, let's say, interception or air superiority or naval bombardment. Then you send out the naval task force with the carriers, and you don't need to reassign the planes to the new air zone because you've moved the naval task force. The planes will just assume that because you've moved the task force, the air zone that they need to work in moves with them. They do note how it says the ability to set, so I assume this is toggleable on the off chance you want to move the naval task force but not change where the mission is being held. Keeping things short and snappy, we move on to carrier hangar detection changes. Well, that just sounds like a thrilling title. With this comes the addition of the modifier for carrier sub surface detection value on hangar modules, which basically means the more planes you have on a ship working, the more surface detection you'll have to find submarines. For those who are interested to discuss the nature of balancing, you're more than welcome to go to the dev diary itself, but my key takeaway here is the implementation is supposed to represent planes going out from the ship and scouting the surface of the ocean, seeing if they can detect anything. The more planes you have, the more opportunity you have to seek out submarines. And lastly, perhaps most juiciest to this particular dev diary, is the introduction of a fourth Special Forces. It doesn't seem to be locked in concrete, but maybe I'm going to stick it at a 90% chance that they are adding in the Rangers Special Forces, for some time perhaps called Jungle Specialists. They say the goal was to create a new Special Forces that works particularly well in jungles and forests, so basically anything to do with trees. We do of course note the overlap with the Mountaineers Special Forces doctrine actually giving you Rangers as a support company, but they say they've changed that by turning the support company into Recon Rangers. So Recon Rangers are going to still be in the game, as we know them traditionally, they're just renamed, and can be unlocked by either picking Mountaineers Special Doctrine or Rangers Special Doctrine. What I do wonder though, is if you pick both Mountaineers Special Doctrine and Rangers Special Doctrine, do you get double the bonuses on your Recon Rangers? I'll be interested to see if that's a thing. I'm not sure how much I can comment on the information we can garner from this. I mean, this is very clearly going to be ported into the game as is. Rangers Special Forces tree, but it looks like what we could expect. Stealthy, the use of artillery within them. Interesting note about the city here. I wonder if this is that you can use Rangers to get advantage in urban areas. Overall, I'm not against the introduction of a new Special Forces. I of course wonder to what extent you will want to prioritise using this with your Special Forces cap limit, as opposed to doing something like Mountaineers or Marines if that's key to your strategy with naval invasions. So yeah, it's always a question of worth, but there are places with a decent amount of jungles where I could definitely imagine you'd want to try and take it. I'm thinking about the Amazon rainforest in particular. I am of course reminded that the additions of multiple types of special forces has been in the game with mods for a while. I think I remember Road to 56 had quite a few, including like desert infantry and these kind of commandos that specifically were designed to use in urban areas. But with that, we have basically come to the end of this week's Dev Diary. I did say it was short, but short is good when you're coming back, I suppose. So feel free to tell me what you think. Not too dramatic changes in here, although maybe you feel strongly about the addition of a new Special Forces. I'd say I'm most interested to find out what was going on with that secret province building that you could add on that island. I mean, maybe it's more widely applied, but with the addition of coal, with the addition of faction reworks, I mean, goodness knows what it could be. Before we head out, there is one little teaser that they've added at the bottom for an escorte, which you have to decipher. It does kind of look to me like a carrier with some planes being just sort of ridden off the side. So I wonder if that's going to be escort carriers that are cheaper to build than mainline carriers and smaller, but allow you to do sort of airbase operations with a minor country, because currently building carriers as a major is really difficult. So escort carriers, smaller, cheaper, but more readily available, I could totally see that being an addition being added to the game. Alright, with that, I'll say thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, well, feel free to like, feel free to subscribe, and maybe we're all back into it. See you next time. Bye!